Kaspa is simply a threat to their models.
When Kaspa faces friction in getting listed on Tier 1 exchanges.
Think about like Binance, they have their own BNB chain ecosystem, right? Coinbase has a base ecosystem. So Kaspa is a major threat to their models.
Ankit sat down with Roger and Dawid from Aporia Exchange to discuss their upcoming orderbook DEX.
We are building the infrastructure that Kaspa actually deserves, a highly performant, transparent orderbook that enables real price discovery on-chain.
You will get to see Aporia Exchange's first demo.
Having a decentralized spot listing of Kaspa coins, especially stablecoins pairs, right, is extremely important.
No centralized gatekeepers, no waiting for Tier 1 listings.
Kaspa does not need those CEXs. We need to build a native orderbook DEX for its own liquidity.
Supported by Kaspa Finance, the first V3 DeFi protocol on Kaspa. Igra Labs, atomic programmability on a Kaspa block DAG. Cascade, use your Kaspa without selling it.
Today, I'm joined by Roger and Dawid from Aporia Exchange. Good to meet you both and great to have you over.
Thank you for meeting here. Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Awesome. Guys, Aporia is Kaspa's first Hyperliquid inspired order book DEX. So let me start by asking you guys, how do you define Aporia? Is that how you call it, Aporia Exchange?
So, Aporia is basically the very first, fully decentralized order book DEX built specifically on Kaspa. Okay, so unlike Hyperliquid, yes, you mentioned about Hyperliquid, but unlike Hyperliquid, okay, our core idea is very simple. Okay, so the Kaspa community should be able to access deep, fair liquidity without depending on the, on those CEXs. Okay, so right now, if you look at Kaspa, right, it's still so early, and Kaspa face real frictions. Okay, getting listed on the Tier 1 CEXs, right? You think about Binance, Coinbase, right? And I think this is not a Kaspa's problem. Okay, it's a structural problem with those CEXs, right? Kaspa is simply a threat to their models. Think about like Binance, they have their own BNB chain ecosystem, right? Coinbase has a base ecosystem. So Kaspa is a major threat to their models. Okay, so we believe that Kaspa does not need those CEXs. Okay, instead, I think we need to build a native orderbook DEX for its own liquidity. So that's how it comes up. We don't want to wait for the permission, okay, from those CEXs. Okay, we are building the infrastructure, the infrastructure that Kaspa actually deserves. Okay, a highly performant, transparent orderbook that enables real price discovery on chain.
It's a Hyperliquid inspired order book DEX, or it's not Hyperliquid inspired? Like, I just wanted to, I guess, if I got that part wrong.
Well, if you think about Hyperliquid, right? And Hyperliquid starts with the perpetuals first, right? It's literally it's a perpetual DEX, right? They start with,
it is mostly
perpetual, and then later they come with a spot listing. And the reason why Hyperliquid can be so successful is because in back in the old days, like I think in 2023, right? During that time, the regulation environment is not good for Binance, right? All those Tier 1 listings, Binance has banned a lot of those, perpetuals, right, in many, jurisdictions, right? So Hyperliquid came and then they said, hey, we have this decentralized, DEX that can allow anyone from anywhere to do the perpetuals trading, and it's pretty fast, right? So they literally just take that market share from Binance, from all those Tier 1 CEXs. But for us, our goal, we take a different approach, okay? Because unlike Hyperliquid that start with the perpetuals, okay, we're gonna start focusing on the spot listing first and only for the Kaspa coins first, okay? Because right now, like I mentioned before, the major problems of Kaspa, okay, is it's pretty hard for Kaspa, for the users in Kaspa ecosystem to easily buy and sell, right? The Kaspa coins. Okay. Yes, you can go to CEXs like Maxi, right? Gate.io. But the things like people always claim like Maxi has been heavily manipulating the price, and sometimes it's even hard to withdraw your Kaspa coins into your wallet, right? So the Kaspa community have a very strong need to have a decentralized, a safe and non-custodian way to buy and sell Casper coins. I think that's right now. This is the most urgent problem in the Casper ecosystem. Is liquidity and a fair price. Okay, the price discovery issues.
Yeah. So let me clarify this. So it's not going to be a perpetual DEX. It is going to be only spot DEX.
No. We will come with perpetual later, but we want to focus on the spot listing first, because right now, like I said, the Casper ecosystem, the spot, having a decentralized spot listing of Casper coins, especially with like USDC, USDT, stable coins pairs, right, is extremely important. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think somehow I got it wrong that it's going to be Hyperliquid inspired, which is obviously PrepDex first. That's cool. That's cool. Good to know. Are you going to be building it on layer 1 or Caspa layer 1 or in one of the layer 2s that you've chosen to build?
That's pretty good questions. So right now, okay, because we want to start with easiest approach, right? Right now the things like if you look at the Casper ecosystem, the smart contract is still in the early stage, right? Now we have the Casplex, but then the Agora Lab is also coming. So we actually did some research, and we are trying to compare with the Casplex and Agora, and eventually I think Agora is a much feasible way to get started first. But speaking of that, in the future, I think we will also very likely to when the vprox comes, okay, we will have our own layer 2 vprox, which can allow us to customize more features, right? Because when you talk about a crop DEX, the order books, right, we're not just trying to build an order book DEX here. We are trying to build a whole ecosystem. Okay, like there's more features coming, and there's more applications coming on top. So I think having a custom layer 2 in the future, when the vprox come, will be really powerful. But now it's just too early, so we just want to focus on the most easy way, right?
Okay, so it's going to be Igra. Is that the answer?
Yes.
All right.
So we're gonna start
Yeah.
with Agora first. We are working with Agora team. Okay, Pavo. We are one of the earliest. Okay, the first project I work with them. Yeah, so we are working with them on a daily basis. Also helping them to improve. So
Yeah. Yeah, everyone helping each other, right? That's part of the ecosystem, right? In a
exactly.
decentralized basis. So that's cool. Now, can I ask a silly question here? I think I came prepared to ask a lot of silly questions today. Can you possibly build order book style DEX on the layer 1, Caspa layer 1 directly? You can give me a
That's a
short
good
answer.
question. Yeah. I think we discussed about this, privately. Yeah, but this is my own opinion. Okay, yeah, I get it. I also read one of your articles, right, talking about like you were proposing that there should be a layer 1, order book DEX on layer 1, right? And to be honest, okay, that idea is pretty cool, pretty attractive. But I just have a different opinion in terms like why we should not do this, because if you look at layer 1, okay, my view on layer 1 is that okay, it needs to stay neutral. Okay, so when I mean that you have to stay neutral means like Casper layer 1, in my view, is just it needs to function as a perfect money, just like Bitcoin. Okay, it's a better version of Bitcoin. Okay, just for peer-to-peer transactions. And anything that is more complex, okay, more complex logic needs to go to layer 2s. Because think about the DEX, right? With if you want to build like a fully transparent order book, right? And you feel like, oh, this is a very cool, right? Things like it's totally transparent, but actually for some institutions, like for large institutions, transparency might be a bad thing for them. Like that's why there are some dark pools, right? CZ talked about this before, like why we should have a dark pools for institutions, because they want more privacy, right?
Yeah.
So for some people, like transparency is good. Some for others, like the dark pools, right, with more privacy is better. So I think okay, the layer 1 should stay neutral, right? So the idea about being neutral is that there should be this layer 1 that benefit all of them, okay, all of the participants, not just some, right? So like I mentioned before, like if you build a fully transparent order book on layer 1, then yes, for most of the retailers and some I think most of people will like it, but some institutions, right, they prefer
Yes.
like the dark pools, right, the privacy.
You mentioned something very interesting. Actually, I've not heard anyone on the podcast. So I've had, I
Really?
don't know, X number of guests, but none of them may have mentioned this thing of dark pools. So you brought up that point, and I thought it'll be great if you can just highlight that bit, because no one really understands the plumbing of the markets, and given you brought it up, it's worth highlighting what dark pools are.
Well, how to say? So in general, I mean, dark pool is just like so in the order book, right? So whenever you place an order, right, everyone can actually see it, right? It's on a public, ledger that you place your order, and then if the order has not been, settled, right? So someone can just front run, right? They can just jump in and front run. The boss can just front run and then just take that transactions,
Yeah.
right? So they can just take some of the value from your trade, right? So I mean, think about the institutions. Usually, the institutions would play a large order, right? They are not just gonna say like, oh, $1,000, right, order. They're gonna say like, say $10 million, right? And if someone see, okay, that order has been placed and it has not been finalized, someone can just jump in and then just front run and then just take that value, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's why the institutions, they, whenever they place order, right, you know, before any settlement, okay, before any finalization, okay, they don't want the rest, okay, they don't want the public to see it.
I think I'll just extend that definition a little bit further.
Okay.
So dark pools, and you can correct me, right? Dark pools are essentially where the orders are not hitting the lit markets. When the orders are not hitting the lit market, they're going to dark pools. Essentially, dark pools are the place where big institutions, as you're mentioning it, right? They don't
Mhm.
want these orders. If Kaspa is someone wants to buy, I don't know, $10 million worth of Kaspa, they don't
Mhm.
want it to go to the order book DEX, right? They want typically to go through dark pool, which is essentially a proprietary place. Banks run it, JP Morgan has it, all these big institutions have it, right? Where they can
Yeah.
trade between each other. They don't want these orders to change the price on one direction or another, right? So these dark pools are very common in traditional finance. It doesn't exist. I don't think it exists in crypto yet. They are coming, but
Mhm.
it's a different product altogether, built for very big large institutions that they don't want.
Exactly.
They
Mhm.
don't want these orders to hit the lit markets, and these are totally legit and approved by SEC in the US, right? They're legal and legal structures.
Mhm. Yeah, you mentioned a good point, but think about it. Okay, Casper. I mean, Casper has been found, okay, as a vision to complete, Satoshi's vision, right? I mean, Casper is not here to just for this all crypto community. Casper is here for the world, okay, mass adoption, right? So we are talking about the Wall Street, right? I mean, the Main Street, the Wall Street. I mean, that's the mission of Casper. So if Casper wants to really reach that, mass adoption, it has to think like, the Wall Street. I mean, we need to have this environment, this infrastructure that is ready for not only the retails, but also the institutions, right? The Wall Street, and more importantly, in the future, the AI agents as well.
So that's great. Now, can we please move quickly through your personal stories? I'd love to know, what's your backgrounds,
Sure, sure, sure.
and
So I
and
guess
obviously, how did you end up building on Kaspa?
okay, sure. So I will just try to go quickly, but yeah, there's a lot of story to talk, but I will just go quick. Uh, so actually, my specialty is primarily in finance and investing. Okay, and as you can see, I'm Chinese. Okay, I was born in China, but I spent like over 10 years, okay, studying and working in the U.S. Mostly in New York. Okay, I went to business school in New York, and after that, I worked in fintech and investing related roles. Okay, so um, let me just talk about my journey with Bitcoin first. Okay, so I first heard about Bitcoin, okay, back in 2012 when I was still in college. Okay, so I remember, okay, in 2012, okay, there was a school newsletter, okay, talking about this thing called Bitcoin. And I think that time, 2012, sometime in 2012, the Bitcoin price just hit like $10 something. So that was the first time I heard about Bitcoin. And I thought, I mean, the first time I heard of Bitcoin, I thought it was just like an in-game currency. The name Bitcoin sounds like in-game currency. And I know there's a game called RuneScape. People just buying and selling in-game items with in-game currency, right? So I thought Bitcoin is just like in-game currency. Okay, but the name was cool, but I didn't take it seriously. So that's the first time I missed Bitcoin. Okay, and then starting to the next year, right, 2013, when Bitcoin price start going crazy, right? And at that time, I happened to be at the Warren Buffett shareholder meeting, okay, in 2013, and I do remember like someone asking about Bitcoin, and I couldn't remember what he said, but he literally called it like a scam. Okay. So I believe him. Okay, I didn't do my own research, so I missed it again. Okay, so that's the second time I missed Bitcoin. So, and then okay, in 2017, right, the Bitcoin price started going crazy and all those ICOs, and that was the first time I start buying my first Bitcoin. And that was also the first time I start really diving deep into crypto and the blockchain. Okay, and it was like a wow moment for me. I learned a very important lesson. Like you should never just make quick judgment without doing your own research, and never blindly trust any expert, even if it's he's Warren Buffett. So that's a big lesson to learn. And but okay, although I was late for Bitcoin, but I was very early in DeFi. Okay, I got into DeFi like I think in early 2019. So, back that time, I was working in fintech space. Okay, I mean specifically in the peer-to-peer lending space. Okay, but peer-to-peer lending, that's like a centralized stuff, right? So I saw the first hand, like all those centralized peer-to-peer lending. How I mean the peer-to-peer lending at first, okay, it was just like a pure platform, okay, to match the lenders and borrowers, right? So they take the fees, but later they act like a bank. Okay, so without any license from the bank. Okay, so they just take the user's fund and they invest in the high risk investment, and then they rug pull. Okay, so I saw so many users, right? They lost everything. Okay, the
These are
platform just
non-banking financial institutions, right? NBFCs
yeah,
or
and highly centralized and no privacy at all, right? So I understand like how seriously right the centralization is, and then there's this platform called ETH Land. I don't know if you heard about it. Like later they become Aave, and because I understand peer-to-peer land, and I see this idea is really cool, right? There's this code is law, and there's no asset custody, right? So you just use a wallet to do the lending and borrowing, right? And there's no centralized manipulation. So that idea that code is law, right? You can't do any evil, completely changed like how I thought about finance. And that's when, I deeply convinced like, okay, DeFi is the future. So I got into DeFi, quite early. I think it's mostly in 2019, I made my, I invest heavily in DeFi, made my first fortune. And I started, and then I started actually, my own crypto venture in gaming, okay, in late 2020. Okay, so that was the time
that was a
when
gaming year, man.
yeah, that was gaming era, and I met my partner Steve. Okay, he was in gaming for over 25 years, and we both have passion in crypto, and we have the passion in gaming as well. So that's how we got started. And Dawid is also in that team, in that early team as well. So thanks, Dawid, for your help for your contribution. Yeah. So for that project, okay, we raised like over $1.8 million from a list of notable investors. Okay, and we have a team of over 20 people. Well, it didn't succeed. Ultimately, I mean, I have a passion for gaming, but I didn't know what I was doing. The business model was very unsustainable. I should say that,
So
but I learned a lot.
Roger, sorry. So you raised $1.8 million to invest in the Web3 games. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, from a notable of VCs actually and top
Okay.
investors like
So you started a venture firm to invest in Web3 games. This
no, no,
is
no,
in
not venture firm. I start a crypto game
a
and I
crypto
raised one.
game. Ah,
Yeah,
for a crypto game, I see.
yeah. We actually built a RPG battle game, like a
Right.
Pokemon style RPG
Yeah,
battle
yeah,
game.
yeah. Right.
Yeah, but
Beautiful. I mean, that's that's amazing. Right. So what happened?
we are just like all other games back in that old time, right? The metaverse and gaming projects, right? P2, the play to earn models, like, it didn't succeed very well. So yeah, so we did build, and then we did have, some users. I mean, most of them are not real players, not gamers. They are just trying to, you know, earn tokens,
Yeah,
like
it was a
gamblers.
big time, right? Illuvium, Stepin, right? Those were the games of the
Yeah,
2021, right?
we used to be really hot. I mean, we got a lot of attention from, a list of, top VCs, and we have a, very strong team, with over like 20 people, I think 25 people. Yeah. But I learned a lot, from my previous venture, from like team building, marketing, you know, timing, the tokenomics, all these things, right? The models. And then, speaking of Casper, okay, so this really fun. So I remember, in late, I got into Casper actually quite late. Okay, so in late 2024, I remember. Okay, back in that time, I was in Thailand. Okay, I was traveling in Thailand, and then I first came across, Casper through this guy called Plan K. Okay, so he's one of the earliest, I think, influencers on YouTube. Okay, the YouTube influencers on Casper, and on his, YouTube videos, he talk a lot about, Casper. So I watched one of his video, talking about like why Casper is better than Bitcoin. And the first thing, like, I thought it's funny, but I did watch that video. And because before Casper, right, a lot of other projects claim that, they're better than Bitcoin, right? Like Litecoins, the Bitcoin Cash, and they all, failed. So, you know, in his video, he talked about like why Casper is bigger than, Bitcoin, and I thought it's very interesting. So I watched that video, and actually I watched all of his, videos in his channel, and then I was very skeptical about it. Okay, but my early Bitcoin journey actually taught me not to dismiss something quickly. So I actually did a lot of research on Casper, especially in the founders, background, and all the technical foundations that he did, those, like Ghost Deck, right? Deck Knight protocols. And that was time that really clicking. Okay, I found like, wow, this is really interesting. Okay, Casper was fair launch, right? Just like Bitcoin, and it's faster than Bitcoin. And they have this very unique DAG structure that can actually scale the Bitcoin. Okay, so once you understand that, you realize that, it's just one of the few networks that can actually support a high performance, truly decentralized financial infrastructure. Okay, so that's why I'm here. That's why we're building Aporia on Casper.
Great story. I liked it. So, David,
Sure. Sure. Um, I'm a software engineer with over 15 years of experience, and mainly I focus on the front-end engineering and the game development. So, like Roger has mentioned, we actually met, I think it was 2021. Obviously, I've discovered Bitcoin a few years earlier, but I am not gonna go into that story. But yeah, we've met in, I think, 2021, where I was helping with the game development and the front end engineering. And I think, a few months ago, actually, Roger contacted me again. That okay, David, we are working on a new project on CAS. Well, I know CAS. I invested a few years ago, and well, definitely not enough. I didn't know the technology that much a few years earlier. And yeah, I thought, well, why not? Let's do it. It's interesting.
no, that's great, guys. Good to obviously get your backgrounds, just for everyone to understand, where you guys are coming from. So let's come back to Aporia Exchange. But why don't we start with the demo? And during this demo, I can ask you a few different things that I've got for you.
Sure, sure.
I hope you can see it.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
Okay. The first thing I recommend to every single user is actually to switch to the dark mode, especially during the day. Um, yeah, yeah, it's at least in my case, usually it burns my eyes, so I do not prefer the light. Um, Yeah, as Roger has mentioned, we are still in build mode. So not everything is working. Some parts are working, and we are still developing. The backend is actually mostly done, which is very important on this. As you can see, we are online. But getting to the more important, the trade. Whoa, let me refresh that. Oh, yes, I don't know what happened. Um, Anyway, so the obviously, like most of the DEXs, we see the pair we are on, the current price of the CAS token, the 24-hour change, the 24-hour volume, current market cap, temporary contract address on the IGRAC Explorer, the trading chart, and what a user should do in the first place is obviously to connect with the wallet on CAS. Terms of service is always a good practice to actually see the terms of the service. We can assume that we actually read it all and just approved. And okay, we are connected to the app. It's worth to mention that, yeah, we are working on the testnet, right? So we will use the TCAS tokens, the testnet Kaspa tokens. Obviously, everyone can use the free faucet to uh, deposit some of the tokens. But our goal is to work on the IGRA Caravel testnet. So we gonna need the ECAS tokens. So what next thing the user will have to do is to actually use the IGRA bridge. I can see my TCAS balance. Then what a user will need to do is to actually copy the EVM address, where to bridge the tokens and the amount of the TCAS. Obviously, the ICAS are on L2. Unfortunately, the bridge doesn't work on the front end yet. We are still cooperating with the IGRA team to actually to solve this. Uh, basically we are one of the first teams who wants to actually to achieve that, and even they asked us if we will achieve that. Can we prepare some open source solution for the others? We are somewhere in the middle of the working of it. I don't even want to try to bridge it now, because as it might throw some errors.
I thought there is a bridge, IGRA bridge, is being built by IGRA Ways. No, those guys are building the
Yes.
bridge.
Yes, there is. Their solution, well, their bridge, which actually I've worked on, which I used, is made in Rust. It's and what actually I currently have is just a shell script running the Rust solution of the bridge, where actually I need to pass the public and the private key. So I guess that not many users will be happy to share a private key wallet for now. But obviously, when we will have it working correctly on the front end, it's going to be, well, more securely, more secured. For the demo, I've bridged using their. I bridged some of the tokens to the ICAS, to the IGRA chain, um, using their solutions, obviously. The next thing that actually the user will have to do is to after bridging the tokens to L2, the user will have to actually deposit the ECAS tokens to our Aporia Exchange vault. I can see my balance. It's not many tokens I have left for the testing, but let's use maybe just one tokens enough.
Sure.
Let's
Yep.
deposit it to the ICAS. Oh yeah, obviously I need to switch my Casware wallet to IGRA Caravel testnet. I'm gonna switch it and deposit to our vault. Sign and confirm. And we are depositing to ECAS. This is kind of fast process. Well, in most cases, probably the transaction should be actually confirmed super fast. Unfortunately, the Explorer is not that fast as the chain is, but we can actually check what's happening there. I hope as fast as possible. Just to be sure that actually we deliver the tokens. Oh yeah. Yeah, so it was confirmed within just 1 second. I deposited one CAS, so we should receive a one wrapped CAS token. If I close it, yeah, my current position is 1.07 CAS, so it was deposited. What the user can do next, obviously, sell CAS or to have some USDC, because right now we are, I deposited only the CAS, but to have more ways to maneuvers is to actually to sell something, to actually to buy. We could change good till canceled and try to sell. Confirmation order model sell CAS, and this is which we are still working on. So actually, what we are working on right now is actually to have the properly working the signature trading signature for a higher security. So this is not yet completed. So I cannot really show you how the market, how the orders work. But this is where we are, and this is actually the place where I hope we will meet again soon to present how everything is fully working.
All right. That's fine. I mean, we can see some UI here, and we can see it looks like a typical orderbook exchange.
Yep.
So let me ask you this thing: what are the assets that you're going to have to start with?
Yes, so just like I mentioned earlier, right? So we want to start with just Casper coins first. Okay, so our very first version, like I mentioned before, is to focus on providing a decentralized liquidity for Casper coins itself.
You mean
Yeah,
just native Kaspa?
just native Casper coins. Yeah, because I mean, I see some other DEXs, right? They focus a lot on the KRC20 meme coins, right? But
Yeah.
for us, okay, we are really here to firstly provide a decentralized liquidity, okay, for the Casper coins, because we believe Cas itself is the perfect money, okay. So a perfect money needs to access a deep decentralized liquidity, okay, and a fair price. So that's why we're here. And then in the future, okay, we will, when we are ready to accept other assets, I mean, we're gonna focus on those high, those strong projects with utilities. Okay, so we don't want to focus too much. I mean, meme coins are still fun, but we don't want to really focus on too much on meme coins. I think, it's the liquidity. I mean, it's the utility that matters. So we want to provide a decentralized DEX that allow all those strong projects, okay, to come. And then we will also, we are thinking about like maybe to come up with like a 0% listing fees first, okay, to just attract those, strong utility projects to come and then list on us, yeah, in the Casper ecosystem. I mean, we're talking about social, right? We're talking about DEXs, financials, right? The lending borrowings, right? Stable coins, all those projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of them will come. All right. So you're gonna start with native Kaspa to start off with. What about with the pair on stable coins, right? What stables you'll have? I mean, this is more of an IGRA.
So we're gonna focus on the CAS and the USDC pairs first. I mean, USDC is generally just more, how to say, they have the auditing, right? It's just safer, in DeFi. Yeah.
Sure. And this is obviously, as I said, it's more of an IGRA cushion because the USDC will come from
Only
then.
on the first version we're on the Ethereum first, so users can swap. Okay, so they can put their USDC on Ethereum. Okay, and then they bridge into Casper to the Agro network through us. They can deposit their USDC from the Ethereum network into our ecosystem, and then start trading with Cas. Yeah, one thing we want to mention. Okay, so our architecture, okay, is kind a hybrid between Aster and Hyperliquid. Okay, so Hyperliquid is, they use this, the bridge model. So every asset from different networks will come into their own, right, network to trade, right? That's a Hyperliquid model. And Aster, they use a more like pool model, right? So they're gonna have this pool, and then they can just deposit it into this pool. So there's no like a single right network for them to bridge in. And our approach is like a hybrid. I mean, we're gonna disclose more details in our white paper later, okay? But the audience can see from the white paper about the details. But yeah, in general, it's like we're gonna come up with the hybrid approach, okay? So the order match will be centralized, and then the settlement will be decentralized in our first version. But eventually, I mean, we want to go for fully decentralized.
The routing and the order matching is centralized.
For the first version, yes.
First version, but the
Yes, but
settlement
gradually
is
we will decentralize. Yeah, so the first version is very close to like the Aster model. I mean, we still take some decentralized approach, but yeah, it's more like the Aster's pool model. Building a fully decentralized Hyperliquid thing on day one is pretty hard, okay, for a team like us. So but this is our goal. I mean, our goal is not just to decentralize everything, okay, but our goal is also to make it like AI friendly in the future. So we don't want to just copy everything from those DeFi protocols from other current chains. Okay, I think Casper, with this speed, right, throughput, it will unlock an entirely new category of financial applications. So, and one of the biggest narrative, I think, that they're gonna come out from Casper is AI agent, okay, plus DeFi. So the AI agents can run efficiently, fast on DeFi. So we are just ready for that future AI agent economy. And it's so our DEX will definitely be like fully decentralized in the future, and be AI agent ready as well. But yeah, for our first version, we, like I said, okay, right now the biggest problem is not about like being decentralized or not. It's about providing a more safer place, okay, for Casper community to trade their Casper coins. Okay, so if you think about like people nowadays, like they have to go to Maxi, right, Gate.io, right, they have to those centralized CEXs to buy and sell Casper, right, and then to I mean, the whole process is just a headache for them, right? And sometimes they can't even take their fund, out. So, yeah. So we want to solve these problems. Okay, we want to have like a decentralized place to help, okay, Casper to access decentralized liquidity and also a fair price. A fair price is very important for Casper. Yeah.
Yeah. So just quickly on the routing part, order matching and routing, right? These two are the most important thing for a order book style DEX, right? I mean, it's also proprietary because every order book does it slightly differently. Is it a fair statement? Like it is kind of your key ingredient in the entire system, right? You can copy the UI, you can copy everything, but really you can focus some things, but really the order matching and routing is the key.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I'm not in the tech space, but I should invite my CTO. He's based in Singapore. I think, yeah, I think I can just let him to answer. After this. So, like I said, we're gonna publish a white paper, okay, and with the technical details from that white paper very soon. Shortly after, before we launch the public testnet. And on that white paper, there are going to be the architecture as well. And we will audience like how we're going to approach this. But yeah, in general, it's like right now we just take a more centralized approach. If you look at us, I mean, it's very similar to Esther's model with more elements. I mean, with some features from Hyperliquid, but it's not like as decentralized as Hyperliquid yet. But shortly after that, I mean, it's gonna come. And I think building on Casper will give us so many edges, compared to Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid, they rely on their own POS networks, right? And for Casper, okay, I mean, think about Casper has not only this parallel structure, right? But so the parallel structure can solve the front running issues, but also one of the biggest advantage that Casper has is the predictable cost. Okay, so the gas fees is quite predictable, and that's pretty good for the market makers. Okay, the market makers, they want a more predictable environment to run. And especially, I mean, we're thinking about the future, right? The AI agent economy, right? The AI agents, they need to run like probably millions of transactions on a daily basis, right? And having this, low and predictable cost environment, right? And this parallel structure, for sequencing is extremely important for AI agents. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we have a very big vision,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but we have to start more first.
Yeah, as I said early on, right? I think there'll be topics from this session that we can have a separate session on, right? So I think order matching and order routing is definitely a topic of interest of mine. Like, I would love to know how you guys do it. So perhaps with your CTO, we can have another session later on.
Sure.
So that's beautiful. We looking forward to that. So just now carrying on our discussion, right? There are two important bits you touched upon, right? The first one is the speed, the throughput that you need, right? Like, you've mentioned Hyperliquid, right? They're doing around 200,000 orders per second with sub-second finality, right? So on a POS, obviously that can be achieved on a POS, right? Kaspa obviously at this stage is not doing anything close to it, right? 3,000 transactions per second, with 10 blocks and 300, up roughly 3 to 5,000 transaction per second, right? So that's the number. Obviously, we're not even looking at that type of volume because obviously, Hyperliquid is trying to attract so many coins, which is not the case with you guys.
Right now, if you look at the Casper network, yes, I mean, for the speed, pure speed, it's not that competitive compared to Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid network is built specifically for that high frequency trading, right? But we have our own edges, okay, in terms of how we're gonna do this approach. And another thing I want to talk about is like I mentioned before, okay, actually I think Aporia and Hyperliquid, okay, we are both, I mean, we are companions, okay, we're both competing with Binance, okay. Hyperliquid is actually taking the market share from this Binance perpetual market, right? And we are trying to take the spot listing market share. And one big issue that Binance has is that, okay, if you look at all those projects that getting listed on Binance, I mean, many of them are just meme coins with very little utilities, and Binance charge very large fees on that, right? So the whole listing process that Binance done, right? The whole practice is, I think, is very wrong. I mean, they are causing too much damage for the whole crypto ecosystem, and we are trying to do a different things. Okay, we are trying to make the whole listing more decentralized. So first of all, like I mentioned, we want to encourage all the strong projects from the Casper ecosystem to come and then list on us for free, okay, and we will just do like performance or milestone based commission later, okay. So people, so the strong projects with the utilities, the real utilities, can be voted by the community to get listed on our DEX, and then we want the community to provide the liquidity, okay, for this. So we want to come up with like a more decentralized approach, okay, a community driven approach for this token listing, okay. So we want to focus on the spot listing, but I mean, perpetual will also come later, but it's not our focus. Yeah.
So that's great. So Roger, you brought up the next point which I wanted to ask you, which is liquidity, right? Which is, I guess, the key for most DEXs, right? Be it AMM or be it order book style DEX. So, and so what are your thoughts around liquidity, where it's going to come from? And just for context for most people, right? Like Hyperliquid, I guess we've talked about Hyperliquid and Aster quite a bit, right? Hyperliquid has this thing called Hyperliquidity vaults and the user vaults, right? So they have
Yes.
these
Yes.
vaults.
Yes.
Along with, they have the high frequency trading market makers. They have all of that, right, over time. But initially, the backstop is the hyper liquidity providers, HLP, what they call it, right? That really provides the backstop, which any one, which is any user, can deposit to that liquidity, right? USDC. So are you thinking along the lines of having user funds as
Yeah, we are trying to come up. Yeah, I think we are trying to come up with something similar. Okay, so I think the power of Hyperliquid, like I mentioned, is okay. they actually leverage the power of the community to provide the liquidity, right? So they have this Hyperliquid vault that allow anyone to be, active, market makers, right? In in the ultimate market maker model, I mean, yes, anyone can be the market maker, but they are just being the passive counterparties, right? But in the the Hyperliquid order book model, you can just deposit your asset into a vault and you become an active participants, right? And I think that's really cool. So yeah, definitely we are taking a similar approach, but it's a little bit different. So here's the thing, okay. I think liquidity is absolutely the hardest part, okay, of building an order book DEX. But I mean, our approach is like very phased, okay. We are taking a very phased approach. So like I mentioned right now, okay, we, our back end is, almost done. Okay, it's like pretty much done. And we are still trying to finalize, okay, the front end integration, which will take probably another 2 weeks. Okay, and after that, it will take another 2 weeks for us to do the internal testing. Okay, so right after the internal testing, we will launch a public testnet. Okay, through an ambassador program. So we will come up with an ambassador program. So the goal here is not volume. Okay, the goal here is the feedback. Okay, so in that ambassador program phase, okay, the early ambassadors can test the product, help us to identify the bugs, and most importantly, right, they can help to educate more people to come, right, to onboard more people from the ecosystem. And after that, okay, so we plan to probably run the ambassador program for like a few weeks on the testnet, okay, and then we plan to move into like a private mainnet launch. Okay, so this is where the liquidity really matters. Okay, so during that phase, the early ambassadors and selective participants will be able to act, as early liquidity providers. So we will come up with something similar to the Hyperliquid. Okay, we have our own bots, actually, the market making bots that built, by ourselves. So the early ambassadors and the selective participants will be able to deposit their funds into a vault, and in return they will earn some yields and the token rewards. Okay, and meanwhile, we plan to also do some fundraising, because I mean, for this project, I mean, you can't just you know you can't just do this by yourself, right? You have to fundraise, right? So we plan to do like a token pre-sale, okay, for the fundraise, and part of that fund will be allocated to bootstrap the early liquidity. Okay, so we will be transparent about that process later, okay, when we are there. So like I mentioned, okay, for the first version of Aporia, okay, we want to just focus on that niche market, the Kaspa community, and we want to only do the spot trading for the CAS and USDC pairs, okay, for that phase. And I think that's that's the single most important market, the spot market right now, before perpetuals, right? The Casper community needs a safe, transparent, and non-custodian way to buy and sell the CAS coins, right? If we can get that market right, then everything else can be built on top of it. Okay, so speaking of that, I think another thing I read on news, it says like in Tangent Wallet, the top, I think the top one or top two, pair, okay, in terms of volume on Tangent Wallet is actually CAS and USDT. So people are actively swapping between CAS and USDT in Tangent Wallet. Okay, so you can see, right, there's this very strong need for the Casper ecosystem to trade between the Casper coins and the USDT, the stable coins, in a decentralized, safe way.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense, what you're saying. So you've touched upon before timelines, so give me a concrete answer in terms of timeline, because I want to wrap that up on that note. When can people expect Aporia to be live? In 3 months time, 6 months time, how long, what is the
Okay,
timeline?
so like I mentioned, okay, yeah, the mainnet launch, we expect this ambassador program to run at least like another month. So we are talking about like 2 months. Okay, to 2 months. In 2 months, then we're gonna make it open for some people, okay, the loyal members, to actually try the mainnet. and that also buy us more time to do the fundraising, and some other stuff. So yeah, so we are really talking about like 2 months time frame to actually let those early loyal members to try out our product.